Hey folks, we're going to be talking today about the current state of cybersecurity. My name's Adam Anderson. I am the CEO of a bunch of stuff, and I love the direction that cybersecurity is going. So let's kind of get a high level overview of where we're at today. So, pretend you are the chairman of the board of an amazing company, and that company is filled with amazing people, and they all work together to produce just great products and services. And those products and services are purchased by other people and generates cash and keeps the whole thing going. Families are growing, the company is growing. It's a wonderful life. Unfortunately, not everybody in the world wants to be a part of it. Some of them decide it's a lot easier to get money by taking it rather than generating it. And they do it through physical, where they try to break in and burgle and all that, and we get in the way with physical security. Then some folks come over the internet or are using technology, doing cybercrime, and so we stop them with cybersecurity. And the latest trend is social, where they try to manipulate your brain to get you to give them the something and bypass the other securities. And we get in the way with that with something we call security awareness or education. Now, as long as all of this is working and everybody in this green box is participating correctly and communicating clearly, we do a really good job of stopping the cyber criminals, the physical criminals, and the psychological criminals. So, unfortunately, if it doesn't, we've got a problem. So, your company is a giant machine. It's full of gears, and just like a machine, your company has friction points. So, inside of machines, when you find friction in an engine or friction in a machine, you put oil during the friction points to the friction points, and that allows these friction points to smoothly operate. Well, in your company, friction is people, processes, and systems. In order to make sure that those things are lubricated well, we have something that's called psychological safety, meaning that you're able to operate in a safe way with low friction or no friction. And you get that by building up communication, collaboration, and trust. So let's look at what happens when that breaks down. So you are, again, sitting at top of the company, you're in the C-suite, and you've got one business unit with executives, directors, and managers, and producers. And on the other side, there's another business unit. And as long as these two business units are working together correctly, communicating clearly, the company is doing fine and everyone is safe. But people are people, and not all the time do we do the right thing, or not all the time do we communicate effectively. And if one of these things breaks down, well, then your producer talks to the director or manager above them, and hopefully they can handle it, and they'll talk to each other, and we'll figure it out at the nope, no, we won't. They're people too. And so now that goes down, and this guy yells at this guy complains to this guy, and this guy yells at that guy. Now we get everybody on a phone call. Let's have a big meeting. Blah, blah, blah. Does it get resolved? Maybe, but probably not. So that director then complains up to the executive, and the executives, thank goodness, the executives have zero problems. Nope, they can't talk either. They have an issue. Someone doesn't like the way the other guy did the thing, or that lady didn't like the way he did that. Blah, blah, blah. And now they're all yelling at each other. Yeah, now it gets escalated up to the C-suite, and thank goodness you're there. And thank goodness you have all of the social skills, the emotional intelligence, the conflict resolution skills to make sure that nope. Yeah, it is a big mess, and this is actually the way most companies look. There are all when you have thousands of people in your company, hundreds of people in your company, there are just going to be communication problems, and they're going to be friction points, and that is really inconvenient. It gets frustrating. But I'm going to talk about something a little worse. So, look, it's inconvenient and frustrating when you're trying to do business. But during an emergency, if you have that kind of culture, if you have that kind of communication breakdown, you're in trouble. So this is a picture of the Ramstein air accident in Germany back, I believe it was in the 80s. And it was horrible because there was communication between the people trying to respond to the emergency. The United States had communication issues with the Germany first responders. There was a period of time where ambulances weren't being allowed on base because the guys at the front gate didn't know what was going on. People died. Lots of people died, 70 plus. And we don't know if better communication would have saved them, but it certainly couldn't have hurt. And so what happens is that maybe one of those producers at the bottom of that pyramid sees something dangerous and tries to raise the alarm and tries to make folks aware of it, but there's a poor communication and no one's listening and there's no place to go. So if you're in cybersecurity and you're trying to communicate danger and you're trying to communicate risk, but no one's listening because there's way too much friction, this isn't an uncomfortable thing. This is a truly dangerous thing to your company. So if this is the way things look, then you are at high risk. And you need to approach it in such a way that you can remove some of that friction. Because if you don't, the punchline is the reason great organizations fail, the reason large companies slowly grind to a halt and then perish, is because infighting from the inside, at leadership level, and unhealthy conversations and unhealthy cultures at the top level will bleed down into all the rest of the company. And if you cannot push down a feeling of psychological safety throughout the entire company so communication can continue, you're heading for a crash. So I'm going to introduce you to a new concept here. Physical security, information security, and now psychological security. The CSO, CISO, and the Chief HR Officer, the CHRO, each lead one of these pillars. In physical security, we are deploying security measures designed to deny unauthorized access to facilities, equipment, resources, and to protect personnel and property from damage or harm. InfoSec, we're going along the same way, except the idea is to stop from hardware, software, and electronic data from getting stolen, as well as to stop the disruption or misdirection of services that are being provided by the company. And psychological security describes security measures that are designed to protect the human mind from psychological manipulation that leads to compromises of physical or information security. That's a complicated way of saying that people can be the problem, but also people are the solution. So if you have a great cybersecurity fortress that is surrounded by great physical security moat, and you then have somebody inside lower the drawbridge and let the bad guys in, right? So how do we do all this? Well, all three of these need to work together to produce security awareness. We need to be aware not just of the physical security problems or the information security problems, but if you don't take seriously the psychological security problems, you have just let a huge backdoor into your systems. So how do we go about doing that? How do we help the cybersecurity professional begin to adapt to psychological security, physical security, and information security? Well, first they need organizational awareness. That means they have to know how all this stuff works together. They need to have psychological safety and emotional intelligence training. They have to be trained in conflict resolution so that if they have a problem with someone or someone has a problem with them, it doesn't have to go all the way up to the C-suite. They need to learn servant leadership. I say you're Yoda, you're not Luke. You're not the hero of the story. You're the advisor and the wise person trying to communicate to everyone else. And also you have to learn how to do practical implementation. And practical implementation is nothing more than courage and vulnerability, because you have to lead by example in this thing. And we have a whole lot of skills that we can teach on how do you do that? How do you lead with courage and vulnerability while practicing servant leadership and implementing conflict resolution in a way that is highly emotional intelligent and produces psychological safety. I look forward to talking to you guys more about it. It's going to be a great ride. Take care.